The chains around Ethan's hands were cold, but he did not struggle anymore. He had already tried. It did not matter. The soldiers around him were taller than buildings, and their footsteps shook the ground every time they moved. He was only a human in a world made for giants. The sky above him was purple, covered with slow-moving clouds. Strange towers rose in the distance, made from black stone and glowing metal. Everything felt too big, too quiet, too dangerous. Ethan was pushed forward into a massive hall. The doors behind him closed with a deep sound that echoed like thunder. Hundreds of giant guards stood along the walls, watching him like he was an animal brought for judgment. Then the floor began to shake. She arrived. The giant queen stepped into the hall. She was larger than all the others. Her silver armor shined under the blue lights, and her long white hair moved slowly behind her. Her face looked calm, almost beautiful, but her eyes were tired, and something inside them felt broken. Everyone bowed. Everyone except Ethan. He looked up at her, forcing himself not to show fear. He had seen death before, but never like this. The queen leaned closer. Her shadow covered him completely. For a long moment, she said nothing. She only studied him, like she was trying to understand something important. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft, but it filled the entire hall. "Human," she said, "you know why you are here?" Ethan swallowed. He did not answer. The queen's lips curved into a small smile. It was not a kind smile. "Lie with me," she said calmly, "and your world will live." The hall became silent. Even the guards stopped moving. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. He had heard rumors during capture. Stories about the giant queen. Some called her a savior. Others called her mad. Now he understood why. He forced himself to speak. "No." The words sounded small in the giant hall, but it was clear. The queen's smile did not disappear. If anything, it grew slightly wider. "You refuse," she said, as if she expected it. "I won't be forced," Ethan replied. His voice shook, but he kept standing. Not for a deal. Not for fear. The guards shifted nervously. Some looked shocked. No one spoke to the queen like that. For a moment, Ethan thought she would crush him where he stood. Instead, she laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It sounded tired, almost sad. "You humans," she said quietly, "always choosing pride." She stood up again, her expression changing. The softness disappeared from her eyes. Refusal also has a price. The floor beneath Ethan suddenly opened, and chains pulled him down into darkness. He fell only a short distance before landing hard on cold metal. The opening above closed, leaving only dim red lights around him. He tried to stand, breathing heavily. Why did she need a human? Why him? Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange underground. Then the door opened again. The queen entered alone this time, without armor, without guards. She looked different, smaller somehow, though still enormous. She sat across from him, watching quietly. "You think I am mad," she said. Ethan did not answer. Her eyes lowered for a moment. "My people are dying." That surprised him. She continued, her voice softer now. "Our children are no longer born. Our future ends with me." Ethan frowned. None of this made sense. "Then why force me?" he asked. The queen looked up again. Fear flashed across her face, real fear. "Because something is coming," she whispered. "Something that hunts us." Before Ethan could ask more, the ground trembled violently. Alarm screamed through the palace above them. The queen's head turned toward the ceiling. For the first time, she looked afraid. A deep shadow passed over the small window high above them. Then another, and another. Ethan slowly stepped closer to the light and looked up. The sky was no longer purple. It was filled with enormous dark shapes descending from space. Warships, hundreds of them. The queen closed her eyes for a second, as if accepting something she could not stop. "They are early," she said quietly. Ethan realized then that refusing her might not have saved him at all, because whatever was coming for the giants was now coming for humanity too. The alarms did not stop. The sound echoed through the giant palace like a warning that never ended. Red lights flashed across the walls, and the ground continued to shake as something massive moved in the sky above. Ethan stood near the small window, staring up. The dark ships covered the clouds like a storm. They were not shaped like normal warships. Their surfaces looked alive, slowly shifting and changing shape. "They found us," the Queen said quietly behind him. Ethan turned. She was no longer looking at him. Her eyes were fixed on the ceiling, as if she could see through the stone and into space itself. "Who are they?" he asked. The Queen did not answer immediately. She seemed tired now, not powerful like before. For the first time, Ethan saw how heavy the crown on her head really was. "They are called the Harvesters," she finally said. "They come when a species becomes weak." Ethan frowned. "And your people are weak?" Her jaw tightened. "We are dying." Outside, something exploded. The sound rolled through the palace like thunder. Dust fell from the ceiling. The Queen stood slowly. "Come." Before Ethan could argue, the chains around his wrists unlocked. He hesitated, surprised. "You're letting me walk free?" "For now," she said. "If we die today, your refusal will not matter anyway." They moved through long corridors filled with giant soldiers running toward battle stations. No one stopped Ethan. Some giants looked at him with curiosity. Others looked angry, as if blaming him for something they did not understand. They reached a large, open balcony. From there, Ethan could see the entire city, and the war beginning. Huge beams of light shot down from the enemy's ships. Towers exploded. Giant warriors fired massive weapons back into the sky. The ground shook with every impact. Ethan felt small again, completely helpless. "Why me?" he asked. "Why does a queen need a human?" The Queen remained silent for a long moment. Then she answered. "Our bodies are failing," she said. "Our children stopped being born many cycles ago. Our scientists searched for answers. They found one thing: humans." Ethan's stomach tightened. "Your species adapts," she continued. "You survive where others die. Your genetics, they carry something ours lost. So you wanted to use me," Ethan said coldly. The Queen did not deny it. "Yes." Another explosion lit the sky. One of the giant ships fell, burning as it crashed into the distant mountains. "But that is not the only reason," she added quietly. Ethan looked at her again. "Then what is?" Her eyes followed the enemy's ships moving above the clouds. "The Harvesters do not only destroy," she said. "They erase. Every world they take becomes empty, silent." Ethan felt a chill run through him. "They already know about Earth," she said. The words hit harder than any explosion. "That's not possible," Ethan said quickly. "You were captured near the outer colonies," the Queen replied. "They followed your signals. Your world is next." Ethan's mind raced. His home, his people, everything suddenly felt closer to danger. "If that's true," he said slowly, "then forcing me won't stop them." The Queen finally looked at him again. Her expression softened, just slightly. "No," she admitted. "It will not." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sounds of battle filled the air between them. Below, Ethan saw giant civilians running for shelter. Some carried children. Some helped the injured. They did not look like monsters. They looked afraid, just like humans. "You're not mad," Ethan said quietly. The Queen gave a small, bitter smile. "Fear makes rulers look mad." Suddenly, the sky flashed white. A massive enemy ship moved closer than the others, blocking the light of the sun. Its surface opened, revealing something glowing inside. A weapon. The Queen's expression changed instantly. "That ship, it should not be here yet." The weapon began to charge. Energy gathered like a growing star. Ethan felt the air vibrate. "What happens if that fires?" he asked. The Queen's voice dropped to a whisper. "The city dies." Giant soldiers rushed past them, shouting orders. Weapons fired upward, but the beams barely touched the ship's shield. For the first time since his capture, Ethan saw something he never expected. The giant Queen hesitated. She looked unsure, afraid, and alone. Ethan realized something important in that moment. The most powerful being on this planet had no one she could trust. The enemy weapon reached full brightness. The Queen stepped forward, preparing to face it alone. And Ethan understood that the war had already begun, and he was standing in the middle of it. The light from the enemy ship burned across the sky like a second sun. The air shook as energy gathered inside the massive weapon. Below, The giant city fell into panic. Sirens screamed. Soldiers shouted orders. Families ran toward shelters carved into the mountains. Ethan could feel the fear everywhere. The giant queen stepped forward to the edge of the balcony. Wind pushed her white hair behind her as she stared at the glowing ship above. Her face was calm again, but Ethan could see the tension in her hands. "You should go inside," she said without looking at him. Ethan frowned. "You think walls will stop that?" "No," she answered quietly, "but it may give you a few more minutes." Before he could reply, the ground shook violently. A beam of light fired from the sky, striking the outer edge of the city. The explosion lit everything in white. A shockwave followed, throwing Ethan against the stone wall. Dust filled the air. Somewhere below, buildings collapsed. The queen moved instantly. She jumped from the balcony, landing far below with a thunderous impact, rushing toward the burning district. Giant soldiers followed her without hesitation. Ethan forced himself to stand. His ears rang, and his chest hurt from the fall. He looked down at the chaos below. This was not his war. He could still leave. A human transport ship waited in the lower hangar. He had heard the guards talking. The escape route was open in case the city fell. If he ran now, he might reach orbit before the planet was destroyed. He started moving toward the exit, but as he ran through the corridor, he saw injured giants being carried past him. One soldier held a small child in his arms, the child crying in fear. Another giant leaned against the wall, badly wounded, still trying to stand and return a battle. They looked just like humans during war. Scared, desperate, trying to survive. Ethan slowed down. His mind told him to leave. None of this was his responsibility. The queen had captured him. She had tried to force him, but something felt wrong about walking away. Another explosion shook the palace. The lights flickered. Through a broken window, Ethan saw the queen again. She stood alone in the open battlefield, holding back enemy machines that dropped from the sky. Each movement of hers destroyed dozens, but more kept coming. She was winning small battles, but losing the war. Ethan clenched his fists. "She can't do this alone," he muttered. A voice behind him spoke. "Then help her." Ethan turned. An older giant soldier stood there, injured but still standing. His armor was broken, and one arm hung useless at his side. "Why would I?" Ethan asked. "Your queen forced me here." The soldier nodded slowly. "Yes, she did." He looked toward the battlefield. "Because she is afraid to lose us." Ethan said nothing. "Power does not remove fear," the soldier continued. "It only hides it." Another blast of light cut across the sky. The enemy ship above began charging its weapon again, brighter than before. "If that fires again," the soldier said, "there will be nothing left to save." Ethan's heart pounded. He looked toward the hangar corridor, then back toward the battlefield. Escape or stay? Survive or fight? For a long moment, he stood frozen between the two choices. Then he turned away from the hangar. He ran toward the battle. Outside, the heat and noise hit him instantly. Giant weapons fired overhead. Enemy machines moved like metal insects across the ground. The queen fought at the center, her armor damaged, movements slower now. She did not see Ethan approaching. He grabbed a fallen control device from a destroyed defense turret. Human technology worked differently, but the system was simple enough. He rerouted power from 3 damage cannons into 1 focus shot. The next blast struck the enemy ship's lower shield. For the first time, the shield flickered. The queen looked up, surprised. Another shot followed, then another. The enemy ship pulled back slightly, its weapon losing charge. The queen's eyes searched the battlefield until she saw him, the small human standing among giants, refusing to run. For the first time, she smiled without sadness. But the moment did not last. A sudden explosion erupted behind her. A hidden enemy drone crashed in her back, sending her crashing to the ground. The earth shook as she fell. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The giant soldiers rushed toward her, shouting in panic. The queen did not move. Above them, the enemy ship began charging its weapon again, faster this time. And Ethan realized his decision to stay had only made him part of something much bigger, something that might kill them all. Smoke covered the battlefield. The air smelled of fire and burning metal. Giant soldiers surrounded the fallen queen, trying to lift her, calling her name again and again. But she did not move. Ethan ran closer, his heart racing. The ground was cracked where she had fallen. Her armor was broken, and faint blue light flickered under the damage. She looked smaller now, weaker than before. For the first time, the battlefield felt silent. Then her eyes slowly opened. Relief spread through the soldiers, but the queen raised one hand weakly, stopping them from speaking. Her gaze moved until it found Ethan standing near her. "You stayed," she said softly. Ethan nodded, breathing hard. "Someone had to." She gave a faint smile, but pain quickly replaced it. Above them, the enemy ship continued charging its weapon. The light in the sky grew brighter, turning everything pale. "We don't have much time," she said. The soldiers stepped back as the queen slowly pushed herself into a sitting position. She looked at Ethan differently now, not as a tool, not as a prisoner, as an equal. "You deserve the truth," she said. Ethan waited. "Long before you arrived," she continued, "our seers saw visions of the future. Worlds burning, civilizations erased, the harvesters moving from star to star." Another explosion sounded in the distance. The city defenses were failing. "In every vision," she said quietly, "we lost." Ethan frowned. "Then why bring me here?" Her eyes lowered for a moment, filled with guilt. "Because there was one future that changed," she admitted. "A future where a human stood beside us." Ethan felt a chill. "So you tried to force it?" "Yes." She did not hide it. "I thought if I controlled fate, I could save my people." The wind howled across the broken city. Fires burned everywhere now. "But fear makes monsters of rulers," she said softly. "And I became what my people feared." Ethan looked at her, realizing how tired she truly was. The stories calling her mad suddenly made sense. She was not insane. She was desperate. "You could have asked," Ethan said. The queen let out a weak laugh. Queens forget how to ask. Above them, the enemy ship's weapon reached full power. The glowing energy spread across the clouds like a rising sun. A soldier shouted, "Impact in 2 minutes." Panic spread through the ranks. The queen closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again with new calmness. She looked at Ethan. "You are free," she said. He blinked in surprise. "What?" "You owe us nothing," she continued. "Take a ship. Return to your world. Warn them." Ethan stared at her. "And you?" She looked up at the sky. "I will do what queens are meant to do. I will stand until the end." For a moment, Ethan said nothing. The easy choice was right in front of him again. Escape. Survival. But he remembered the civilians running. The soldiers fighting. The queen standing alone against the sky. "You really thought forcing me would make me stay?" he asked quietly. The queen shook her head. "No, I hoped you would choose to." The words stayed between them. Suddenly, the ground trembled harder than before. The enemy weapon fired a test pulse into the upper atmosphere. The air itself seemed to scream. Ethan looked at the battlefield, then back at the queen. "You said there was one future where you win," he said. "What was different?" The queen hesitated. Then she answered, "In that future, the human refused me." Ethan stared at her, confused. "He did not become my weapon," she said. "He became my ally." The meaning hit him slowly. This was never about control. It was about trust. Ethan turned toward the burning city, thinking quickly. The enemy ship was strong, but not perfect. Earlier, its shield had flickered when power was focused in one place. A risky idea formed in his mind. "We don't need to destroy the ship," he said. "We just need to stop that weapon." The queen studied his face. For the first time, hope appeared in her eyes. "You have a plan?" Ethan nodded slowly. "A dangerous one." Above them, the weapon began its final charge. Light swallowed the sky. The queen stood again, despite her injuries, towering over the battlefield once more. This time, she did not stand alone. And as the enemy weapon prepared to fire, Ethan realized the final battle had already begun. The sky burned white. The enemy weapon was seconds away from firing. The air trembled as energy gathered above the city. Giant soldiers prepared for the end, standing in silence as they looked up at the coming destruction. Ethan ran across the broken battlefield, shouting orders to anyone who would listen. Giant engineers and soldiers followed him, confused at first, but the queen raised her hand. "Listen to him," she commanded. That was enough. Ethan pointed toward the enemy's ship. "Its weapon needs constant power. When we hit the lower shield before, it flickered. That means the energy flow is not stable." The queen understood immediately. "You want to overload it?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, but we need one opening. Just a few seconds." The queen looked at the sky, then back at her soldiers. Many were injured. Many were tired, but none stepped back. "I will give you those seconds," she said. Before Ethan could respond, she leaped into the air. Massive engines on her armor ignited, pushing her upward toward the enemy's ship. Giant defense cannons fired with her, filling the sky with light. The enemy weapon fired. A beam of pure energy shot downward, but the queen moved directly into its path. She raised her shield, screaming as the energy crashed against it. The ground shattered beneath the force. Her armor cracked, glowing from the heat. "Now," she shouted. Ethan activated the defense system. Every remaining cannon redirected power into a single focus strike. The combined blast shot upward, hitting the exact point where the shield had weakened before. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then the enemy's shield broke. The energy inside the weapon became unstable. Light twisted violently across the ship's surface. The massive cannon began collapsing inward, unable to control its own power. "Pull back," Ethan yelled. The queen forced herself away just as the weapon exploded. The blast tore through the enemy's ship, breaking it apart from the inside. Burning fragments fell through the sky like falling stars. The remaining enemy ships hesitated. Then, slowly, they began to retreat. Silence spread across the battlefield. The war was over. Ethan dropped to his knees, breathing heavily. Around him, giant soldiers stared at the sky in disbelief. The city still burned, but it still stood. They had survived. A massive shadow landed behind him. The queen knelt slowly, her armor badly damaged, her movements weak. But she was alive. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "You saved us," she said quietly. Ethan shook his head. "No, we saved each other." The queen smiled, a real smile this time, free from fear. "I tried to force destiny," she admitted. "But humans, you choose your own path." Ethan looked at the horizon where the enemy ships disappeared into space. "That's all we really have." Days later, the city began to rebuild. Giant and human engineers worked side by side. The fear between them slowly turned into respect. When Ethan's ship was finally ready to leave, the queen walked with him to the landing platform. "You're free to go," she said. "No that's, no chance." Ethan nodded. "And if they come back?" The queen looked toward the stars. "Then we face them together." He smiled slightly and stepped into the ship. As it lifted into the sky, the queen watched until it disappeared among the clouds. She no longer looked like a mad ruler. She looked like a leader who had learned to trust. Far above the planet, Ethan looked back one last time. Humanity was small compared to the universe. We compared to giants and alien fleets. But humans had something stronger. They refused to give up. And sometimes, that was enough to change the fate of entire worlds. The end.